doing some other stuff. Arvin's going to run into the room now because he's having to do this remotely. He likes to call this the Church of Rantology.
Here's the latest to Evan Heidenreich. Republican presidential frontrunner Donald Trump is telling a large group of protesters that all lives matter. The group of mostly black protesters began shouting Black Lives Matter during a rally today at Radford University in Virginia. They also chanted No More Hate as Trump supporters booed and tried to shout them down. At the University of Central Arkansas, fellow candidate Marco Rubio said Trump is running a campaign based on fear.
The advantage of Americans who are afraid of what the future is going to be like for themselves and their children. And what he's trying to carry out is a scam to take control of the office of the presidency of the United States.
The stump speech repeatedly targeted the GOP frontrunner and his record. Federal judge blocking the Justice Department's attempt to force Apple to unlock an iPhone involved in a routine drug case. Government filed the motion last October before a California judge ordered Apple to help open the iPhone of one of the San Bernardino shooters. Apple is fighting that court order on the grounds that it would be devastating for customers' privacy. You're listening to the latest from 24/7 News. A police shooting in Raleigh, North Carolina is drawing protests. Demonstrators chanting Black Lives Matter arrived on the scene shortly after a deadly officer-involved shooting. Police say an officer was chasing a felony drug suspect today, and during the course of the pursuit, he shot and killed the man. The suspect was black, and witnesses say the officer who shot him is white. The American astronaut who was about to come home after spending a year in orbit is turning over command of the International Space Station.
Our person said to me one time, teamwork makes the dream work in space flight, and space flight is the biggest team sport there is.
Scott Kelly and a Russian colleague are wrapping up a record-breaking one-year mission to study the long-term effects of living in a zero-gravity environment. Friends and family are mourning the loss of actor George Kennedy. Facebook post by his grandson said the 91-year-old actor died yesterday morning in Boise, Idaho. Kennedy won a Best Supporting Actor Academy Award for his work as a bullying convict in the 1967 film Cool Hand Luke. I'm Evan Heidenreich.
From the KCAA Weather Center, I'm Keith Langloss. For tonight, mostly clear, low 54. Daytime Tuesday, sunny and a high 87. Tuesday night, clear with a low 53. Wednesday, sunny, the high 84. Wednesday night, partly cloudy, low 52. Thursday, mostly sunny, the high 77. Thursday night, partly cloudy with a low 50. Friday, mostly sunny, the high 76. Friday night, some patchy fog overnight, otherwise partly cloudy, a low 52. That's your weather forecast for this hour from KCAA 106.5 FM and 1050 AM, the stations that leave no listener behind.
This is 1050 AM, KCAA Loma Linda, and 106.5 FM, Yucaipa.
Welcome to Foster, and now here's your host, Dr. Anissa McNeil.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Foster Radio Show. Tonight, we're going to discuss one question that was asked of me by a foster youth, and that is, Dr. McNeil, where will I live when I turn 18? And so tonight, we want to talk about what happens to a foster youth when they turn 18 years old. There used to be a time when you turned 18, you literally exited the foster care system, and that was it. But what we're going to find out tonight is that is no longer the case. So let's talk about what we know to be true here tonight on Foster Radio Show. What we know is here in the state of California, we have 64,000 foster children in our state. In our state, 4,000 foster children leave the foster care system each year, but only half of them have a place to go. We know that 50% of foster youth experience homelessness after 1 year of leaving foster care. So, what happens to those children or those young adults? Where do they go? What can we do? What is already being done to help foster children when they turn 18? What is being done so that they don't automatically become homeless? I don't know about you, but when I turned 18, I still needed the guidance of my family. I still needed some support so that I could find my way through young adulthood and become financially stable. And that is no different for our foster children. They are really finding their way through this young adult stage until they can become financially stable. And the term that we used in children's court or in child welfare is TAY. That is transition adult youth. And so when we talk about TAY, we talk about the TAY youth. They are from ages 18 to 21. And that is that young adult age that's transitioning from foster care to becoming a financially stable young adult. So what happened, Dr. McNeil? You might be asking yourself, what happened? What caused us to have foster children with us until the age of 21? I want to take a moment and describe to you a study that was done. At Chapin Hall at the University of Chicago, they found that if we extended foster care to the age of 21, that housing would become more stable. And that study was done 2 years ago, and 6 years ago in 2010. They found that by extending foster care to 21, they had observed no reduction in, no one became homeless at the age of 18. However, they also observed that there was still some homelessness at the age of 21. So what happened here in our state? In our state, here we passed a law called AB 12, and that extended foster care to the age of 21. We're not alone. There are 14 other states that have legislation that extended foster care to age 21. And you may say, why is that needed, Dr. McNeil? And that is because foster children need extra support as they transition to adulthood so that they can become stable. First, the states would be required to provide young people with an appropriate place to live for an additional 3 years. And second, by extending foster care to age 21, young people may be in a better position to provide their own housing needs when they are 21 compared to the age of 18. We know that this is such a challenge. I had the opportunity to attend a community college education summit at the Right Way Foundation a week ago. And I have to tell you that my heart was troubled as I attended that summit and listened to the young adults in the room really express all of their challenges surrounding housing. And so I thought how apropos that tonight we're going to talk about housing and some of those challenges. And so here as our guest today on Foster to Foster radio show, we have Mr. Franco Vega. Franco Vega is the executive director of the Right Way Foundation. We also have with us Miss Janet Kelly. Miss Janet Kelly is the executive director of Sanctuary of Hope. And we have Mr. Sam Herod, who is not only the CASA of the year for our entire nation, but he's also about to launch his own housing project for our TAY population. And I'd like to say good evening to Franco, Janet, and Sam, and welcome to Foster to Foster radio show. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. And I just mentioned to our listening audience the education summit that we all attended about a week ago there at the Right Way Foundation. As we were listening to the young people, Franco, what really came across your mind in regards to housing?
How scared our youth are leaving the system and trying to pursue a higher education. They have to work on going to school and then have to worry about where they're going to sleep at night. And the fear factor, I could read across their faces, and it scared me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sam, what came to your mind as they expressed their challenges with housing?
Exactly what Franco said. Some of the worst days in foster youth life is when they turn 18. And then the second worst day is when they turn 21. and that's when they're basically no more help for them to get to the next level.
Absolutely. And Janet, you sit in a different position. You actually run a housing program in Los Angeles. As we sat there at the Education Summit last week, what were some of the thoughts that came to your mind?
I guess the major number one thought is the trepidation of turning 21, and that there's been a somewhat of a system failure, not so much the system itself, but by default. And the challenges that even our youth will have, especially in Los Angeles, as it relates to housing and a very competitive housing market, that it's going to be very hard for them to squeeze into a needle in a haystack.
Wow, a needle in a haystack. That is quite an analogy to make in regards to the housing situation in Los Angeles. But this not only affects Los Angeles County listeners, this affects San Bernardino, Riverside, our entire state. California is not a inexpensive state to live in. So if you can imagine the average rent, the average cost to live in your city, just imagine a young person that may or may not be prepared to enter into the housing market, yet alone be prepared to financially be able to stay afloat on their own wits. And I can only reflect back not only on the Education Summit, but to a conversation that I had with my own CASA kid. And I want to explain to the listener what a CASA is. I serve as a court-appointed special advocate for foster youth in Los Angeles County. And I can remember one of my CASA kids stating to me, you know, Dr. McNeil, when I turn 18, I'm scared. Where am I going to go? Like, how am I going to figure this out? And then the most startling question that he asked me, he said, I have never had to evaluate a house on my own. And you mean now that I'm 18, I'm going to have to evaluate where I live on my own? And so I want to take a moment this evening and kind of drill down a little bit. What is the housing situation for our foster youth? What are the resources that are available to them? What are some of the challenges? You can hear our guest today describe the trepidation and the fear and even the anxiety that we could see on the faces of young people as we participated in an education summit. We want to get down to the information. If you are a foster youth and you're listening to this radio show, I want you to hang in there and join us after this break, because I'm going to provide you with resources and information so that as you exit the foster care system, you will be equipped with that information. Hang on to our short break and we'll be right back on Foster to Foster radio station. Education Works consulting firm provides foster youth education services. We work to make sure that every foster youth has a chance by providing a way through education. Please visit us at edworks4u.org or call our offices at 213-634-0044. Education works for all of us.
The Glamour Gowns and Suit Up event is back this year, Saturday, April 9th at the LA Convention Center. If you have a foster child or foster children who would like to attend their prom, this is the event you don't want them to miss. Glamour Gowns and Suit Up provides new formal wear for foster boys and girls who need prom dresses, suits, shoes, and accessories who would otherwise be unable to attend their prom. Reservations must be made by April 5th, that's a Tuesday, at CASALA.org/glamour gowns or call 323-859-2888, option 4. That's 323-859-2888, option 4. Hurry, April 5th will be here before you know it, so make your reservation today at CASALA.org/glamour gowns, where you can also volunteer to help out. Come join the Glamour Gowns and Suit Up event April 9th at the LA Convention Center and help make the dreams of foster children a reality. Education Works consulting firm invites you to their wine tasting event to benefit the 2016 Unstoppable Awards. The Unstoppable Awards provide scholarships to foster youth who have a B to C grade point average and are accepted to a trade school, college, or university. The wine tasting event will take place Saturday, March 19th from 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. at the Arcadia Women's Club in Arcadia. Tickets are $55 a piece, or you can purchase two for $100. If you can't make the wine tasting event, you're welcome to donate online. Remember, your donation goes to help the foster youth who are overcoming challenges. To make a donation or to purchase tickets for the wine tasting event coming up March 19th in Arcadia, go to edworks4u.org. That's edworks, the number 4, the letter U.org.
Education Works Consulting Firm, Incorporated, is now providing education coaching and workshops for parents and guardians. Are you working with a parent or guardian who needs assistance with education? Is your parent or guardian in jeopardy of losing their education rights? If so, we can help. Please refer the parent to our office at 213-634-0044. Education Works Consulting Firm is celebrating its 10-year anniversary. And in celebration, the Healing Touch Massage Therapy Center is offering each listener a 15% discount by simply mentioning Foster to Foster Radio Show. Healing Touch specializes in sports massage, deep tissue massage, prenatal massage, reflexology, trigger point therapy, acupuncture, and myofascial release. The Healing Touch is located at 1426 Ramona Avenue, Suite E8 in Chino, California. Give them a call at 909-242-1371. And don't forget to mention Foster to Foster Radio Show for your discount. The Hair Garden, where we grow hair from the roots, is a full-service hair salon and supplies located at 40119 Marietta Hot Springs Road, number 103C, Marietta, California. We are open on Mondays through Saturdays from 9 to 6 p.m. Come in and purchase your hair supplies or receive a full hair service, or let us restore your hair. We have weekly specials. Call The Hair Garden at 951-698-8444 or visit our website at www.hairgardenmarietta.com. That's www.hairgardenmarietta.com. We look forward to seeing you. Happy holidays.
We're back to Foster with your host, Dr. Anissa McNeil.
Welcome back, listeners. We are discussing tonight the housing information for foster youth, our TAY youth. We're also discussing some of the challenges that they may face as they are trying to obtain or acquire housing. So first, we want to go to the legislation. We want to talk about what is AB 12. If you are listening, if you're a foster youth, please remember this website, ILP Online. If you simply go to www.ilponline.org, it will provide you with all of this information. So when should you start looking at this website? I would say if you are in middle school and you're a foster youth, start to look on this website. Get to know what's going to happen when you turn 18. When you go to ILP, Independent Living Program Online.org, when you go to that website, it'll start to tell you some of your rights and some of the information in regards to housing. So if you go to that website and you click on After 18 program, it will tell you this information, that here in the state of California, as of January 2012, we have adopted the AB 12. That is the California Fostering Connections to Success Act. And that allows a foster youth to remain in foster care from 18 to 21. Now, that is voluntary, which means that At your 6-month hearing, if you're in foster care, at your 6-month hearing right before you turn 18, when you go to that hearing, the judge is going to ask you if you want to remain in foster care. At that time, you can choose to remain in foster care till you're 21, or you can choose to exit. Remember that this is voluntary. So let me tell you what will happen if you choose to remain. If you choose to remain in foster care, you will be eligible for what we call non-minor dependent benefits. And this legislation also provides financial payments to you, as well as transitional support services to you. And so we're going to go into that a little bit. If you decide to become a non-minor dependent, which means that at your 6 months prior to your 18th birthday, when you go to that hearing and you say, yes, Your Honor, I want to remain in foster care, then it means that you are AB 12 eligible. And this is how you meet those requirements. Once you say yes, then we're going to look for you to meet at least one of the following. You have to be working towards your high school diploma or your GED, or you have to be enrolled in college, community college, a vocational program, or you have to be employed at least 80 hours a month. That means 20 hours a week. Or you can be participating in a program designed to assist in gaining employment, or if you're unable to do one of the above because of a medical condition. Okay? So that is how you qualify for AB 12. That's how you qualify to be a non-minor dependent and remain in foster care until you're 18 years old. If you decide to do that, let's talk about today some of your housing options. Again, if you go to www.ilponline.org and click on After 18 program, you'll be able to scroll down to the bottom, and you'll be able to read what your options are for placement. It states here that your options are to remain in your existing home of a relative. You can remain in your licensed foster family home or a certified foster family home. You can have a home of a non-related legal guardian whose guardianship was established by the juvenile court, or your group home. That's your first option. Your second option is our THP Plus foster care. And in our next hour, we're going to define what that is, because they have 3 models of our THP foster care placement. And then your third option is what we call Supervised Independent Living Placement, or SILP. And this is where the young person gets to select a independent living placement, meaning an apartment, a house, a condominium, a room, a boarding arrangement. It could be your college dorm, along with a roommate, while receiving the supervision of a social worker or your probation officer. And I know this to be true because one of the recipients of our Unstoppable Award receives SILP payments, and she receives that, and her social worker flies up to Humboldt State University and visits her every month so that they supervise that placement. So that is AB 12. And I have online with me Mr. Franco Vega. He is the executive director of the Right Way Foundation. I have Mr. Sam Herod, who is the CASA of the Year for our country, actually. And I have Janet Kelly, who is the executive director of Sanctuary of Hope. And what I've done, Franco, Janet, and Sam, is just really define and outline the eligibility and placement options for our foster youth. But what do you see as some of the challenges as we work with, the 4 of us actually work with foster youth, this TAY population on a daily basis? What do you see as some of the challenges with AB 12?
Well, first, Franco from the Right Way, I would suggest all of my foster care listeners stay in the system, opt to stay in that system. Just from my personal experience, you should stay in the system and get the support that you desperately need. The situation is not a bright future due to the cost of living, and then how many placements are there for our youth? I don't think the demand is being met. And so I would definitely pass it on to Janet Kelly, who runs the housing, transition housing program, who's awesome and has saved many of our kids from the Lightweight Foundation. So Janet, go ahead, my dear.
Oh, great. Thank you, Franco. I would like to echo that. I think one of the greatest challenges as it relates to AB 12 is, one, the availability of housing. I mean, we have more youth who are exiting out of the system than we have available beds that are within the system. And because of that just the high level of demand, we just haven't caught up with the supply. And part of not keeping up with the supply, the greatest challenge has been a lot of our youth experiencing homelessness or receiving delay in obtaining AB 12 because you need housing, especially if you're a SILT. You need housing in order to qualify for the services. So a lot of times what we're finding is that our youth are in a quandary. It's like a catch-22. So if they're not able to secure the housing, demonstrate that they have the housing so that when they're working with their social worker or the time that they need to go to court to have everything approved, they're just pretty much stuck in limbo. And that's one of the huge unfortunate things about here in California, because there isn't really that safety net during that period of time. And then the other challenge is, and this is more as it relates to the SILT program, is finding landlords who are willing to rent to our K population. A lot of it has to do with their own ideas of what they think a youth will do, but also it has a lot to do with it's a very competitive housing market. The vacancy rates across the board in the state of California is anywhere between 1 to 2%, especially here in Southern California. So if you can imagine, when youth are going out there and they're looking for housing, whether it's renting a room or finding an apartment, the challenges that they're facing is a real tight market. So one of the things that I always tell our youth is you need to treat housing like you treat employment. You need to figure out, how do you put your best foot forward? How do you interview? How do you sell yourself to a landlord? One, by selling that you'll be a good tenant, you'll follow the house rules, or that you will follow rules. And the other is being able to demonstrate that you are going to be responsible, that you will manage your money, and you will pay the rent. Because at the end of the day, for some of these, whether it's an institution or it's a private landlord, you have to be able to demonstrate that not only you're a good citizen, but you're going to be good with your money and take care of your responsibilities.
Right. Thank you, Janet. I want to talk a little bit about what you said about the quandary that they're in. The quandary that we hear all the time from our TAY population has not only to do with their housing, but to remain eligible for AB 12. So you could hear Miss Kelly talk about they're kind of in limbo. You don't qualify for AB 12 for your housing. But housing creates that limbo for you, because to qualify for AB 12, you only need to work towards the completion of a high school diploma or your GED, or be enrolled in college, community college, or a vocational ed program, or work 80 hours a week, or participate in a program that will help you gain employment. But this is the quandary that you fall in, is how do you focus on any of those things if you don't know where you're going to sleep? And I can tell you that, listener, from being a person that was previously homeless, when you are worried about where you're going to sleep, what are you going to eat? Even if you can obtain food, where are you going to store it? Where are you going to put your clothes? So we're talking about basic questions. And that's why tonight we're focusing on housing, because when you can't secure permanent housing and adequate housing, all of these other things almost become secondary because your primal state of living becomes primary. And that is why they're caught in a quandary. And I hope you can really hear that, because young people not having had the skill set to go out and obtain housing, they don't know how to manage two of these most critical things at the same time. So thank you, Ms. Kelly, for bringing that to the attention of our listening audience. That's wonderful. Sam, can you let us know what are some of the challenges with AB 12?
I can speak from the court perspective for the kids that I emancipate from children's court. Right now I have 2 kids, and I was dealing with one today, and one of her issues, she's a minor adult dependent with a child. She's having trouble getting housing because of her credit. Somebody had got a hold of her Social Security number, and I guess they probably used it, and her credit is bad. And we're trying to figure that out right now. And what her issues are, she'll be 21 in November. She has a 9-month-old baby. Her payments and soap are going to be running out real soon. So it's a big challenge for her because she has a baby to take care of. And she's getting close to that age where she's going to age out. So, you see it all the time with our kids is their Social Security numbers, their other stuff is out there, and people take advantage of them. So not only do they have to face the issues of finding housing, there's other challenges that they have to face as far as qualifying. Qualifying is a huge thing because you got to come up with first and last. You got to come up with security payments and like. So, I always recommend my kids to stay in the AB 12 program, to wait until you go into a AB 12 housing until you are able to figure this out. But I know how it is when you turn 18, you want to get out the system. And that's the challenge, to try to talk these kids into staying in the system when you've been in it a long time. And has been a CASA, as you know, Dr. McNeil, that we see that all the time with our kids. Mm-hmm. They want to get away. They're tired of adults telling them what to do. They're tired of living in 2 to a room or 3 to a room. They're tired of living in a 1,200 square foot house with 6 other kids in it and 1 bathroom. And it's tough. It's tough. It's a tough road for them.
It really is. It really is. And another thing that they face in regards to finding adequate housing, you'll note that AB 12 also allows you to have a roommate or to live with someone or to do room and boarding. But a lot of our foster kids lack good decision-making skills. And so they'll choose to live with someone, and then in 6 months, it fails. And now they find themselves needing another placement. Or they'll choose to live with a friend, and that friend, it's a good party time for 4 or 5 months, and then voila, they're homeless again. So some of that decision making, and when I say decision making, because if you're a foster youth and you're listening to me, your social worker will no longer say, oh, that's not a good placement for you. If you go out and you decide to live with your good friend, and then the 2 of you fall out in 3 months and you're asked to leave, you're going to have to find another place to stay. All they're going to ask you to do is to find that place. And once you agree to it, then they're going to make sure that it's safe and secure, and then you'll start to get your SILP money. So another challenge is those decision-making skills, so that they are choosing a stable house to live in. What I see with most of my CASA kids is they are selecting placements that I, as their CASA, I don't agree with. it's not going to last more than 6 months. And true to form, we'll find ourselves in 6 months looking for another place for them to stay. So if you're listening to me and you say, well, Dr. McNeil, I got a plan. Me and my friend, we're going to leave this group home and we're going to live together. And I would say to you that I would look deep and hard before I make those types of decision making. Can your friend save money? Can you save money? Can you all pay your utilities on time? If the boyfriend takes the money or they go out and party and leave you stuck with the bills, how is that going to affect your friendship? So some of those things that if you had a parent, your parent would be asking you those questions like, wait a minute, who you're going to live with? Well, how much money do they have saved? Who's signing the lease? That's a huge one for our kids. If you sign a lease, you are legally responsible for that apartment or that townhouse for the duration of that lease. And it doesn't matter. But my roommate moved out or she moved with her boyfriend. If your name is on that lease, that financial obligation belongs to you. So that's one gray area that I see in the AB 12 program. I even see that gray area from the court's perspective of when they're doing their independent living classes. In the independent living classes, we don't teach decision making. We teach how to open up a checking account, how to do those things, but we don't teach what is the checklist? What questions should you ask when you're going out to look for an apartment? Franco, Janet, Sam, do you all see that?
All the time. I hate to laugh at it, but yes. But I laugh at it because we're not teaching our kids how to live correctly and make good choices. You know, our kids fail by errors, but these are some big errors they're committing, you know. And, you know, it's the kids are not being taught how to live on their own. Fortunately, I left to the Army after, you know, I lost my parents and I was an orphan. As soon as I turned 18, I had to go to the military because I knew I wasn't going to go the right route. I knew I didn't know how to pay rent, live on my own, and then the party factor, making bad choices and trying to live my life to the fullest. And no, I wasn't ready, so the Army had to do that for me. And so you see all these kids who, they just don't know how to make these good choices sometimes. They've never been taught, you know. And now, all of a sudden, 18, 21, you're on your own. Yeah, right. How many real kids can live on their own at 18 or 21? You need to extend AB 12, in my opinion. Just me, older age, 24, 25 years old, you know. Give them more time. Help them out financially, you know. Stuff like that.
Right. Is it more time that they need or is it more training? Because just think about us as parents. We give those questions to our own children. We say, hey, this is what you need. This is what you need. If they had the training, would they need more time?
I'm going to say my last piece and let Janet chime in. I think more mental health support, helping them process the trauma that they went through growing up in the foster care system would help out tremendously, in my opinion. Go ahead, Janet. I'm sorry.
Yes, I was going to echo that because I think what we do need to take into consideration is cognitive development. These young people, even at the age of 18 up to 24, and I would say even up to 26, are still going through cognitive development, meaning that their brains are still developing, they're coming into their emotions, they're working on understanding what their life is and what their life goals are as it relates to employment, housing, or even their own personal well-being. And so I think that makes it very different, and especially in this day and age, I always tell people, I'm tired of people saying you need to pick yourself up by your bootstraps, because it's really not that simple as it was, I think, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s, because even for a non-foster youth, the average age of a person leaving home is 30 years old. And that's because there's a lot of different life conditions that's happening now that's made it difficult for people to leave the nest. So the same thing as for foster youth is, one, they're going through cognitive development. They're still going through that process. They're still dealing with trauma or the post-traumatic stress as it relates to spending time in the foster care system. So coping through that in itself is a process. I would say the most strongest and resilient youth, and there's a lot of them out there, are able to take wings and fly. But we know that not all of our youth are that strong or that resilient yet that they're able to do so, which is why I think that's one of the reasons why the National Alliance to End Youth Homelessness and Corporation for Supportive Housing introduced a new bill called H.R. 3700, which is new legislation that's being proposed to extend the Family Unification Program, which is basically a Section 8 voucher that some of our youth get, and extending it from the eligibility from ending at age 21 and extending it to the age of 24, as well as also extending the housing assistance from 18 months to 36 months. So it allows most of our foster youth enough time to deal with not only their developmental, cognitive issues, but issues that surround them as it relates to their viability to earn a living wage and get on their feet and to become stable.
Absolutely. And if you heard what Ms. Kelly just said, if you go to www.hud.org, you'll be able to read about HR 3700. And if you're a foster youth and you're finding yourself in between, I'm not AB 12, I am no longer a part of the foster care system, and you need housing, HUD does have resources for you. And again, that website is www.hud.org, and you can receive assistance for housing. Thank you, Ms. Kelly. That's a wonderful resource to bring up. Mr. Herod, what are your thoughts on that?
From seeing foster youth when they go to court in their last hearing and the preparation that they give them from the Department of Children's Family Services, they know more than ask them what program they want to join. And it's a big decision. A lot of them don't really understand that decision, but it affects them the rest of their life. I've been in TDMs, or team decision meetings, where a CSW or a social worker told a foster youth that if you want to go to the SILP program, you can find a roommate on Craigslist. And just to hear somebody in the department say that to a foster youth is not really helpful, because you can't go to the Craigslist and find a roommate if you're coming out of foster care. That's ludicrous. I mean, it's just not happening. And a lot of kids come out of the care, out of the system, and they are damaged. They are very damaged because the system is damaged. The system was never set up to do what it's doing now. It's hard for these kids to be in a home when you're 17 and the next day you turn 18. You can't even open the refrigerator. And then when you're 18, they expect you to be grown. Janet was right, where it takes a while to grow up. For our boys, our males, I hate to say it, but I'm a male, it takes us even longer to mature. We might not mature till we're 35, to tell the truth. And if you don't really get it, if you don't understand the system you're in, you go through a continuous cycle of blaming other people for your problems. And that's what I see a lot with my foster youth. It's never their issue. It's I didn't get the job, or I was late for work, or some other issue. And
yeah, and
that
that's
goes on and on and on and on.
And that's the purpose of this show. Oh, I'm sorry, Sam, to cut you off, but that is the purpose of this show. And that's why I'm saying to you, if you're listening and you're a foster youth and you are 14, 15, 16 years old, go to www.ilponline.org. Yeah. Ask your social worker, hey, in a few years, I'm going to be 18. Tell me, what are the steps? What is a transition housing program? Can you take me to go see one? I want to see what it is before I'm asked if I want to go. What you have to do, and I'm telling you this, sweetheart, from being a foster child, What you have to do is you have to find the information. Just like you find out when you're going to the movies, I want you to find out about ILP. I want you to find out about how much money you'll get in AB 12. What's the benefit of staying in it if you're 21? Where are you going to live? Do the research like you're researching Drake or you're researching the new hip-hop person. I want you to take your adulthood that seriously. Don't wait for the social worker to come to you. Don't wait for your judge or your attorney to just lay out the information for you. I want you to seek out this information just like you can tell me where The Weeknd is in concert in the next couple of months. And it's so serious. And you say, well, Dr. McNeil, why are you being so serious about it? I can only tell you for myself. When I was 18, my grandmother couldn't tell me how to chart through the world. When I was 18, I left Florida and I came all the way to California. I didn't even know where the 10 freeway would take you. And I didn't have a car. I was on the bus. But what I did know is that getting the information was all on me. And I don't say that to you harshly. I say that to you with love. Because if you get the information for yourself, if you go to www.ilponline.org, no one can tell you how do you qualify for AB 12. You'll have it right in front of you. No one can tell you what your housing options are. You'll have it right in front of you. And then you become the most precious thing that you can ever become, and that is your own advocate. We're going to take a short break now, and we'll be right back on Foster to Foster radio station. My name is Dr. Anissa McNeil. I do the work, and I tell the stories of foster youth.
Education Works Consulting Firm, Incorporated, is now providing education coaching and workshops for parents and guardians. Are you working with a parent or guardian who needs assistance with education? Is your parent or guardian in jeopardy of losing their education rights? If so, we can help. Please refer the parent to our office at 213-634-0044.
The Glamour Gowns and Suit Up event is back this year, Saturday, April 9th at the LA Convention Center. If you have a foster child or foster children who would like to attend their prom, this is the event you don't want them to miss. Glamour Gowns and Suit Up provides new formal wear for foster boys and girls who need prom dresses, suits, shoes, and accessories who would otherwise be unable to attend their prom. Reservations must be made by April 5th, that's a Tuesday, at KCAA.org/glamour gowns or call 323-859-2888, option 4. That's 323-859-2888, option 4. Hurry, April 5th will be here before you know it, so make your reservation today at CASALA.org/glamour gowns, where you can also volunteer to help out. Come join the Glamour Gowns and Suit Up event April 9th at the LA Convention Center and help make the dreams of foster children a reality.
Education Works Consulting Firm is celebrating its 10-year anniversary. And in celebration, the Healing Touch Massage Therapy Center is offering each listener a 15% discount by simply mentioning Foster to Foster radio show. Healing Touch specializes in sports massage, deep tissue massage, prenatal massage, reflexology, trigger point therapy, acupuncture, and myofascial release. The Healing Touch is located at 1426 Ramona Avenue, Suite E8 in Chino, California. Give them a call at 909-242-1371. And don't forget to mention Foster to Foster Radio Show for your discount.
Education Works Consulting Firm invites you to their wine tasting event to benefit the 2016 Unstoppable Awards. The Unstoppable Awards provide scholarships to foster youth who have a B to C grade point average and are accepted to a trade school, college, or university. The wine tasting event will take place Saturday, March 19th from 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. at the Arcadia Women's Club in Arcadia. Tickets are $55 a piece, or you can purchase 2 for $100. If you can't make the wine tasting event, you're welcome to donate online. Remember, your donation goes to help the foster youth who are overcoming challenges. To make a donation or to purchase tickets for the wine tasting event coming up March 19th in Arcadia, go to edworks4u.org. That's edworks, the number 4, the letter U.org.
The Hair Garden, where we grow hair from the roots, is a full-service hair salon and supplies located at 40119 Marietta Hot Springs Road, number 103C, Marietta, California. We are open on Mondays through Saturdays from 9 to 6 p.m. Come in and purchase your hair supplies or receive a full hair service or let us restore your hair. We have weekly specials. Call The Hair Garden at 951-698-8444 or visit our website at www.hairgardenmarietta.com. That's www.hairgardenmarietta.com. We look forward to seeing you. Happy holidays.
Education Works Consulting Firm provides foster youth education services. We work to make sure that every foster youth has a chance by providing a way through education. Please visit us at edworks4u.org or call our offices at 213-634-0044. Education works for all of us. Let's head back to Foster with your host, Dr. Anissa McNeil.
Welcome back to Foster Radio Show. You're on the line with me, Dr. McNeil, Mr. Franco Vega, who's the Executive Director of the Right Way Foundation, Mr. Sam Herod, who's our CASA of the Year for our country, and Miss Janet Kelly, who is the Executive Director of Sanctuary of Hope Housing Program in Los Angeles. Welcome back, Franco, Janet, and Sam. In this hour, in this segment, we're going to talk about the transition housing programs which are available to foster youth. So I want to very quickly, again, if you go to www.ilponline.org, you will note these 3 different housing programs. So I want to start with, what if you are a foster youth and you exited, you decided, nah, I'm done with foster care. I don't want to be a part of AB 12. Guess what? We have a housing program for you. It's called the Transition Housing Program Plus, and that is for all foster youth that have exited the program, but they still need housing assistance. It's never too late. I also want to tell you that if you are 18 to 21 and you decided to exit the system, but you're having some difficulty, do you know that you can go back to court and ask to become a part of foster care? You have that right. Now we want to talk about the Transition Housing Plus program, and that's for any foster child that is currently in the system that's ages 16 to 18. Yes, you heard me correctly. You mean, Dr. McNeil, if I'm 16 years old, I can find out about a transitional housing program and I can be placed in one at age 16? Absolutely. Get ahead of the game. Don't let the game come to you. Get ahead of the game. I'm also want to tell you about the Transition Housing Program Plus, FC. So that is when you turn 18 to 21, these are the housing resources that we use for all non-minor dependents, which means that you are taking advantage of all AB 12 services. And so if you go to www.ilponline.org, you can see that our state has these 3 very robust housing programs for our foster youth. And so our listener may be challenged. You may say, well, Dr. McNeil, if they have 3 robust housing programs, why do they still have so many challenges? Why do foster youth still have so many challenges with housing? And you can hear Janet, Sam, and Franco talk about the disparity in housing, especially in Los Angeles County. Here in Riverside and San Bernardino County, our young people also have difficulty finding housing. And that's why tonight we want to focus on that. So I want to ask you, Mr. Franco Vega, who's the executive director of the Right Way Foundation, if you had one thing to say to a foster youth that's 18 to 21 in regards to housing, what would you say to that person?
Be very proactive in searching for your housing. You're going to have to wake up every day and put that as your number one mission to find housing similar to you look for a job or look to enroll into a community college. You're going to have to put a lot of effort into it, dress up, play the part. It is an actual interview. And go out there and knock on doors. And then reach out to local nonprofits and ask us for help, and we'll guide you in the right direction. That's our job. We should be doing that for our community. There's nonprofits like the Right Way Foundation and Sanctuary Hope and CASA, which Sam is a part of. We'll help you guys out. Just come to us.
Wonderful. Thank you, Franco. And Janet.
Well, what I would add is because I'm a housing ILP provider, and that's particularly for homeless youth or those who are at risk of becoming homeless foster youth, is if you know that you're going to be exiting very soon, because a lot of times for us and our staff have to do with when a case is going to be terminated and how we're going to plan and hold our units. So, for example, if you know that your case is going to be terminating maybe 4, 5, 6 months away, that's the time that you need to start reaching out to some of your PHP and independent living housing program providers to let them know, hey, what is your program? What does your program do? I have an interest in your program, so that, for one, we have you on our radar. We would have at least almost all the information that we need to help you to transition into housing faster, such as a birth certificate, your ID, your Social Security card, and your immunization records. Those are very key, important documents for you to have, because if you have those things, it helps facilitating housing faster, especially in the event when, one, housing becomes available, or two, we need to place you on a waiting list so we can prioritize you for housing. So as a part of, again, like Franco had mentioned, your planning process is you have to start eating, thinking, housing. And how do you plan for your own particular housing?
Wonderful. Thank you, Janet. Sam.
I'm going to echo that, because as a CASA, I always tell my kids to think of housing as like you're going to college. You start applying just as you would to a university or another school when you're getting out of high school. On another note is the Children's Law Center has a special unit they created. Children's Law Center is a group of attorneys that handle the cases for foster youth in children's court. The special unit that they created is just going to deal with Tay. And these attorneys are just going to drill down on this issue because they see it all the time, and they get tired of these kids coming back in when the social worker have not did their job. So these attorneys are going to take up the mantle and start preparing our kids at an earlier age so they can make this transition. And what's important about that, a lot of the youth will have these attorneys when at 12, 13, 14, 15, and they emancipate. So these attorneys are well. So I think that maybe be a help in court, because I think you are familiar with this program, Dr. McNeil.
Yes.
That the CLC lawyers or Children's Law Center attorneys are putting in the plan right now, because they see it over and over because they hear the cases every day. They're the ones trying to put the kids back together when they get out and they come back in.
Absolutely.
So I think that's going to be a big help, because they're going to have different resources for the kids, because they know them best. They know the case, and they could be another person in that kid's ear saying, I'm your attorney. We're going to get together, and we're going to look for housing together instead of waiting for the department or somebody else to do it. So I'm just hoping that
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 they
comes
will
online
get the help.
soon.
Absolutely. You can hear we're at the end of our hour together, but you can hear what a significant need that this is, housing is for our foster children in our community. I will cover this subject again. It bears a greater discussion. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. My name is Dr. Anissa McNeil. This is Foster to Foster Radio Show. I do the work and I tell the stories of foster youth.
This is 1050 AM KCAA Loma Linda and 106.5 FM Yucaipa.
Columbia, her dad, a physician, big Trump fan, read his books, successful businesswoman. She's got to go in 5 minutes. We're going to go out and do a man on the street with her a little bit later before she goes back to Vegas today. But she's here campaigning for Trump in Texas. And she was just laying out, I said, what percentage of Hispanics you talk to in Vegas and around the country support Trump? And she dropped a bombshell, and then she dropped another bombshell, but they don't want people to know because they feel intimidated by political correctness as well. So repeat what you just said during the break.
Okay. 75% of the Hispanic, Latino, American citizen love, adore, and support Donald J. Trump. There is a lot of intimidation from Hillary Clinton, from Bernie, from Cruz and Rubio, and it's not fair. We are here, and I invite every Hispanic American citizen